The cell was cold, always cold. No sunlight, no warmth, only the sound of dripping water and the heavy chains that held her wrists and ankles. Her name was Valari, once a child of the skyborn, those who flew above the clouds on golden wings. But now, her wings were gone. Cut from her back the day she was judged, blinded by searing rods, her eyes burned so deeply that even dreams became dark. 15 years had passed since that day. She did not count time by suns or moons. She counted by meals. If they gave her one, it was a day. If they forgot, it was a night. Most days were nights. The guards had stopped speaking to her long ago. To them, she was a criminal, a warning to others, but no one ever told her what crime she had truly done, just that her bloodline was cursed, that her truth was dangerous. Valari had stopped crying many years ago. Tears had no use in the dark. Pain had become normal. Silence had become her friend. Until one day, she heard something strange. Footsteps. Not heavy, like guards. Not rushed, like patrol bots. These were slow, careful, and unfamiliar. She held her breath. No one came down here, not anymore. The door to her cell creaked open for the first time in years. The chains rattled as she pulled herself up. She could not see, but she could smell dust, metal, and something else. Something warm, alive, human. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice dry and cracked like stone. No answer came at first. Then a soft voice, confused. "You're alive?" She flinched. It was a man's voice, not cruel, not like the guards. "I didn't mean to scare you," the human said, stepping inside. "I didn't know anyone was still down here." She wanted to believe him, but hope was a dangerous thing. "What do you want?" she asked carefully. "I'm just a scavenger," he said. "I was looking for tech parts, got lost in these tunnels, then I found this place." There was silence again. Then Valari said something she hadn't spoken in years. "Is the sun still warm?" The human didn't answer right away. He stepped closer. He saw her, thin, trembling, covered in old scars, eyes white and empty, chains dug into her skin, dried blood around her ankles. His heart sank. He bent down and whispered, "Yes, it is, and I promise you'll feel it again." Valari shook her head. "No one promises here, only lies." But the human touched her arm. Gently, she gasped at the warmth. Real touch, not from metal, not from pain. "My name's Jace," he said. "I'm not part of them. I'm human." She didn't know what a human was, but his voice had no hatred, no commands, just confusion and care. He looked around the cell and pulled a flask from his bag. He placed it into her hands. "Water," he said softly. Her hands shook as she brought it to her lips. Clean water, real water. It burned her dry throat, but she didn't care. For a long moment, she just drank and cried. Jace sat beside her. He didn't ask questions, didn't judge, just waited. "Finally," she whispered. "They blinded me for speaking." Jace blinked. "What did you say?" "I said the old gods were not dead, that the fire in the sky was not the end." He stared at her, confused. "They called it heresy," she added. "They took my eyes, my wings, everything." Jace stood up, his fists clenched. "This is wrong," he said. "This place, what they did to you, it's evil." Valari laughed softly, bitterly. "You're the first one to say that in 15 years. He looked at the chains. "I'll come back with tools," he said. "I'll break those." She didn't answer, but when he stepped toward the door, her voice stopped him. "If you leave, they'll kill you." Jace turned, his eyes burning with quiet anger. "Then they better not see me." He disappeared into the shadows, and for the first time in years, Valari felt something inside her. Not hope, not yet, but the memory of light. It was enough to keep breathing. One more day, one more chance. Jace didn't sleep that night. He sat in a hidden corner of the tunnel, staring at the dark ceiling. Valari's face wouldn't leave his mind. Eyes burned white, lips cracked, voice trembling with fear but still trying to be strong. She wasn't just forgotten. She had been erased. He had come to this broken planet to search for rare tech. Old Dominion research labs were hidden underground, and scavengers like him could make a fortune. But he never expected to find a living soul, especially not a prisoner left to rot for 15 years. The next morning before the sun rose, he returned, his steps quiet, his breath steady. He carried a stolen toolkit, a half-broken light, and a scarf filled with protein bars and clean cloth. When he opened the cell again, Valari was sitting upright, waiting. "I thought you wouldn't come," she whispered. "I told you I would," Jace said, kneeling beside her. He unrolled the cloth and handed her food. She touched the bar with her fingers, unsure. "It's soft," she said. "Real?" "Yes," Jace replied. "Eat slowly." She bit into it carefully, her hands shaking. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she chewed. "This tastes like the sun," she said, voice small. Jace smiled sadly. He picked up the cutter tool and looked at the chains. "They fused these to your bones," he muttered. She nodded. "So I wouldn't try to fly again." Jace gritted his teeth and worked gently. The sparks flew, the metal whined, but slowly one shackle opened, then another. When the last one fell, Valari collapsed into his arms. She didn't cry from pain this time, but from the strange feeling of freedom. "You're free," he whispered. She shook her head. "Not yet." Jace helped her stand. Her legs were weak, thin like sticks. He wrapped her in his coat, lifting her carefully. The hallway outside was cold and narrow, but it was a road, and roads meant escape. "Where are we going?" Valari asked. "Someplace safe," Jace replied. "There's a neutral zone past the eastern ridge. A medic there might help you." She didn't understand the names, but she trusted his voice. No one else had touched her with kindness in so long. As they moved through the tunnels, Valari began to hum softly, a broken melody from her childhood. It echoed gently off the walls. Jace said nothing, just listened. It made the silence less heavy. They stopped at a hidden chamber where Jace had stashed supplies. He wrapped her feet in padding, gave her more water, and tried to boost the signal. On his wrist scanner, no luck. Dominion interference still jammed all outgoing messages. "We're on our own," he muttered. Valari turned her head toward him. "You sound angry," she said. "I am," Jace answered. "What they did to you, it makes me sick." "They called it justice," she said. "But I was only a girl with questions." Jace clenched his fists. "That's not a crime." Suddenly, a light blinked red on his scanner. A patrol drone was sweeping the tunnels, nearby. "Stay quiet," he whispered, pulling her into the shadow of a broken wall. The drone passed slowly, its red eye scanning the area. Valari's body tensed, her breathing sharp. Jace wrapped his arms around her to calm her, his own heartbeat loud in his chest. When the drone left, she whispered, "You should leave me." "No," he said without thinking. "Never." "I'll slow you down," she said. "They'll kill you too." "I'd rather die helping you than live walking past you," he said firmly. Valari went quiet. "Then," she said, "you are not like the others." "No," Jace replied. "I'm not." They walked for hours, resting only when needed. Jace carried her sometimes, spoke softly to guide her steps. Valari started asking questions about the world, about humans, about the sky. He answered all, telling her stories of blue oceans, flying birds, glowing stars. She smiled once, just once. It was small and tired, but real, and that made Jace feel like the mission was already worth it. As night fell, they reached the surface. A broken stairwell led them into an old city ruin. Valari stopped as the wind touched her face. She gasped, lifting her head. "It smells like rain," she whispered. Jace looked at the horizon. Storm clouds were gathering. "We'll find shelter," he said, taking her hand. But deep in the shadows, red eyes blinked to life. A silent signal was sent. Target located. The human had taken her. The rain came fast, cold and sharp like needles. Jace held a tarp over Valari's head as they ran into the ruins of an old storage facility. He found a broken steel door, kicked it open, and helped her inside. The wind howled behind them like a ghost. Valari sank to the ground, breathing hard, her legs shaking from the long walk. Jace pulled off his coat and wrapped it around her. "Rest here," he said. "I'll find something to make a fire." She reached for him blindly, gripping his wrist. "You'll come back?" she asked. He nodded, then remembered she couldn't see. "Yes," he said softly, pressing her hand against his chest. "I will always come back." She let go slowly, and he left the room to search for fuel, broken crates, torn cables, rusted machines. Everything was damp, but he found a few dry rags and a half-burned coil that still held some charge. When he returned, Valari was curled up on the cold floor, whispering something under her breath. "Are you praying?" Jace asked, kneeling beside her. "I'm remembering," she said. "The sound of wind. I used to fly with it." Jace's chest tightened. She had lost so much, her wings, her sight, her freedom, and still, she held on to memories. He lit the fire carefully, a soft orange glow warming the room. Valari flinched, her head turning away. "It's too bright," she whispered. "Sorry," Jace said quickly, covering part of it. "I forgot." "No," she said, reaching slowly toward the warmth. "Don't hide it. I want to feel it again." He helped her sit close to the fire, her pale hands stretching out, trembling. For a long time they said nothing, just sat together in the quiet. Then came the sound. A soft hum, far too smooth to be natural. Jace froze. His scanner flicked red. "Drones," he whispered. Valari tensed. "How many?" "3, maybe 4, he said. "They've got our signal." She turned her head toward him. "Leave me," she said quickly. "You have to go. They won't kill you if you run." "I'm not running," Jace growled. "They'll track." "You," she said. "They always do." "Then let them." Jace stood up and pulled out his pulse knife. "I've faced worse." "You don't understand," Valari said, her voice shaking. "They're not just soldiers, they're shadows. Elite enforcers." Jace paused. He had heard that name before. Shadows didn't just catch targets, they erased them. No records, no mercy, no survivors. He looked at Valari sitting there in torn clothes and bare feet and felt fire in his chest. "No one's erasing you," he said. "Not again." He pulled her up, wrapped her in the tarp, and whispered, "We run now." She nodded, trusting him completely. The back wall of the storage building had collapsed. Jace led her through the gap, down into the flooded alleyways of the ruin. Behind them, red eyes scanned the storm. The drones dropped silently from the sky, following their heat trail. Jace knew these streets were full of traps, collapsed floors, broken cables, loose debris. But he had no choice. He pulled Valari along, guiding her every step. Left, careful. Step down, now climb. He repeated like a rhythm. She followed without complaint. Even when her bare feet bled, a sharp sound sliced through the air. Zap. A drone fired, missing them by inches. Jace ducked, dragging her behind a broken wall. "We need to split their line of sight," he muttered, pulling a broken light from his pack. He threw it far across the alley. The heat signal flared and 2 drones chased it blindly. They ran again, hearts pounding. Valari gasped for air. "I can't." "You can," Jace said firmly, lifting her onto his back. She clung to him, whispering, "Why are you doing this?" "Because you matter," he said. "And they don't get to decide your worth." Finally, they reached the edge of the ruins. Ahead was an old service tunnel that led toward the eastern zone. If they made it, there might be shelter, maybe even someone who could help Valari see again. But just as Jace reached the tunnel gate, a figure dropped from the sky. Black armor, red visor, twin blades humming with energy. A shadow. "You are trespassing in a restricted zone," the soldier said coldly. Jace stepped forward, blocking Valari. "She's under my protection." The shadow tilted his head. "Then you will die with her." The fight began fast. Jace ducked the first strike, his knife clashing against the soldier's blade. Sparks flew, steel screamed. Valari crouched. Near the wall, praying under her breath, Jace fought hard, but the shadow was faster, stronger, trained to kill. Just as the shadow raised his blade for a final strike, a loud crack echoed from behind. The building above collapsed slightly from the storm, sending debris falling between them. Jace grabbed Valari's hand. Now! They sprinted into the tunnel, vanishing into darkness. The shadow didn't follow. He tapped his communicator. Target is moving east. Request reinforcements. The tunnel was cold, wet, and endless. Every few steps, water dripped from rusted pipes above. The air smelled like oil and old metal. Jace moved quickly, his hand gripping Valari's tightly. She was weak, her breath shallow, her legs barely holding on. But she kept going, trusting the sound of his voice more than her own broken body. We're close, Jace said. There's a man I know, used to be a battlefield medic. Now he hides tech for the right price. Valari nodded slowly. Will he help me? If I pay him enough, yes, Jace said, though he wasn't sure if that was true. They reached a heavy blast door covered in moss and vines. Jace knocked 3 times, then paused, then knocked twice more. A small panel buzzed open, revealing a camera lens. A robotic voice asked, "State your need." Jace leaned close. "Sanctuary and salvage. One guest. Wounded. Blind." There was silence. Then a low clunk. The door hissed and slowly opened, revealing a narrow hallway lit with blue lights. At the far end stood a tall figure in a coat made of patched fabrics and old armor plates. "Jace," the man said. "Didn't think I'd see your sorry face again." "Still breathing, Aaron," Jace replied, pulling Valari forward. "I need a miracle." Aaron stepped forward, looking Valari up and down. He said nothing at first, then sighed. "You always find the hopeless ones." "She's not hopeless," Jace said sharply. "She just needs her eyes back." Aaron raised an eyebrow. "Those eyes are gone, burned beyond repair." "I know," Jace said. "But you had something once. That visor from the war, the prototype." Aaron's face turned serious. "That thing's not stable," he said. "It's Dominion tech, meant to rewrite brain signals, never meant to be safe." "It's her only chance," Jace said. Valari stood silently listening. She finally spoke. "I'm not afraid of pain." Aaron looked at her for a long moment, then walked to a locked cabinet. He typed a code and pulled out a metal case. Inside was a thin, curved visor with glowing wires. Small needle-like sensors on the inside. It looked fragile, deadly, and beautiful all at once. "This was made for soldiers who lost their sight in battle," Aaron said. "It connects directly to the brain, bypassing the eyes, but it's unstable." "Will it work?" Jace asked. "Maybe," Aaron replied. "Or it might burn out her mind." Valari stepped forward, her voice calm. "If it gives me one moment of light, I accept the risk." Jace helped her sit in the center of the room while Aaron prepared the device. He cleaned her face, adjusted the pads, and whispered, "When it starts, don't move." Valari nodded, her hands resting on her lap. Jace knelt beside her, holding her hand. "I'm right here," he said. Aaron activated the device. The visor lit up with a soft hum, the sensors glowing blue. Tiny sparks ran along the wires as the device scanned her mind. Then, "Pain," Valari gasped. Her back arching, the room trembled with energy. Jace held her shoulders. "Stay with me," he said. "Don't give up." Her face twisted in agony, but she didn't scream. The light grew brighter, filling the room with a strange warmth. Suddenly, the visor went still. Silence. Valari slumped forward. Jace caught her, fear rising in his chest. "Valari?" he whispered. She didn't answer. Then slowly her fingers moved, her head lifted, her face turning toward the firelight. She blinked, once, twice, and then, I see something," she whispered, her voice trembling. Jace felt a tear fall from his eye. "What do you see?" "Shapes, shadows, color. Your face," she said softly. "You're not what I imagined, but you feel the same." Jace laughed, relief flooding his body. Aaron stepped back, surprised. It actually worked. Valari touched the visor, gently. The light hurts, but it's beautiful. But before they could celebrate, Aaron's alarm buzzed. He checked the screen, and his face turned pale. "They're here," he said. "The Dominion just pinged this location." "How long do we have?" Jace asked. 10 minutes, maybe less," Aaron replied. "I can run," Valari said, standing on shaky legs. "I'm ready." Jace grabbed his gear. "Then we move now." Valari looked at him with her new sight, weak but growing stronger. "I will never forget this," she said. They rushed out through a back tunnel. Behind them, the visor hummed with soft light. A spark of hope born from forbidden tech. A gift of vision that would soon put a target on both their backs. The mountain air hit them like a frozen wave. Jace pulled his scarf tighter as he helped Valari up the rocky slope. She had never walked this far above ground, never breathed this kind of clean, sharp air. It stung her lungs, made her eyes tear, up behind the glowing visor. But she didn't complain because for the first time in 15 years she could see, not fully, not clearly, but shapes were forming, light was returning, color danced like ghosts across her field of vision. She could see Jace, blurry, yes, but real. She smiled through chattering teeth. "Your voice fits your face," Jace chuckled. "I'll take that as a compliment." They reached a narrow cave hidden behind a wall of overgrown vines. Jace scanned the area, checking for drones. Nothing yet, but he knew they were still being tracked. Inside the cave, warmth from glowing crystal moss lit the walls. Jace started a small fire, using dried branches they had collected earlier. Valari sat beside it, her hands outstretched, fingers soaking in the heat. "I never knew fire had so many colors," she whispered. Her voice was soft but full of wonder, like a child discovering the world again. Jace watched her silently. He had seen many things in his life. Planets burn, cities fall, leaders lie, but nothing hit him like seeing Valari's face in the firelight, eyes still scarred but now alive, glowing softly under the visor's light. She looked more than just alive, she looked reborn. "You should rest," he said. "We have a long way to go tomorrow." Valari shook her head. "I can't sleep, not yet." "Nightmares?" Jace asked. She hesitated, then nodded. "And dreams? Of flying?" There was a long pause. Then she turned to him. "What will you do after this?" "After what?" "After I'm safe," she said. "After I can see again." "Will you leave?" Jace looked into the fire. "I never planned this," he admitted. "I came here for salvage, not a rescue mission." "Then why did you stay?" she asked. He met her gaze. "Because when I found you, something in me broke," he said. "And something else started to heal." Valari didn't speak, but the look on her face said everything. Gratitude, sadness, fear, and something else. Something gentle, quiet, dangerous hope. Suddenly the cave shook. A small quake, maybe, or worse, a landing. Jace grabbed his scanner. A red dot blinked on the edge of the map. "Incoming," he said, standing fast. "One ship, maybe two." Valari stood, wobbling slightly. "I can fight," she said. "No," Jace said. "You just got your vision back." "And I won't lose it again," she replied. They stepped toward the mouth of the cave. A ship descended through the clouds, sleek and black with the Dominion's red symbol glowing on its sides. From its hatch dropped 4 figures, heavily armored, moving with perfect coordination. Jace cursed under his breath. "Shadow Squad," he said. "They're not just hunting us. They want the visor." Valari tightened her fists. "They took my wings, my voice, my light," she said. "I won't let them take this too." Jace handed her a flash pulse device. "Point and click," he said. "Blind them for a second, then run." She nodded, placing her finger on the trigger. The shadows moved. In silence, blades drawn, scanning the area. Jace waited, heart pounding. He whispered, "Now." Valari stepped out from the cave. She faced them, visor glowing bright. They paused for just a second. surprised to see her standing. She aimed and fired. A blast of white light exploded across the rocks. The soldiers staggered, blinded, sensors scrambled. Jace leapt from cover, slamming one with a stun baton. Another lunged at Valari, but she ducked, rolling to the side with surprising grace. She couldn't see perfectly, but it was enough. They fought their way through the soldiers, using rocks and ice as cover. Jace was bleeding from his shoulder. Valari's arm was bruised. But together, they reached the cliff's edge. Below them was a frozen lake, solid, dangerous, but their only escape. "Jump?" Valari asked, her voice steady. Jace looked down, then back at her. "You trust me?" She nodded. "Then yes," he said, grabbing her hand. They jumped. The wind roared around them. The world spun. And then, ice. They hit the frozen lake hard. Sliding across the surface, Jace groaned, pulling her up. "Still alive?" he muttered. Valari looked around, breathing hard. "I can still see the sky," she whispered. "Still see you?" From above, the soldiers shouted. But they didn't. Followed, too risky, too far, too late. Jace and Valari limped toward the forest line beyond the lake, each step slow. Painful but determined. They had escaped, again, but every step forward came with a cost, and they both knew. The worst was still ahead. Snow crunched beneath their feet as Jace and Valari moved deeper into the forest. The trees were tall and silent, their frozen branches like claws reaching into the gray sky. Valari's visor flickered now and then, the signal weakening, the battery nearly drained. But even through static and blur, she could still see more than she ever had in 15 years. "We need shelter," Jace said, wincing as he touched his bleeding shoulder. "There's an old comm station nearby," he added. "Dominion left it after the war. It might still work." Valari said nothing, but tightened her grip on his arm, helping him stay upright. They found the station half buried, under ice. Its antenna snapped, the front gate hanging from rusted hinges. Inside, it smelled like dust, metal, and old fire. But it was dry, and it had power. Jace collapsed into a broken chair, breathing heavily. Valari lit a heat coil using leftover fuel and pulled a blanket over his chest. "You saved me," she said quietly. Jace chuckled. "We're not done yet." She looked around, her new vision blurry but enough to notice a working terminal at the far wall. Wires hung from the ceiling, and the screen blinked a dull green. "What is that?" she asked, walking toward it. "Could be storage," Jace said, sitting up slowly. "Data logs, maybe. Dominion records." Valari hesitated, her hand hovering over the console. She pressed the activation button, and the machine whirred to life. A menu appeared. Encrypted files, audio logs, classified footage. "Can you break it?" she asked. Jace nodded, pulling a tool from his belt. "Give me 10 minutes. As he worked, Valari stood beside him, her heart pounding. She didn't know why, but something deep inside told her. There was truth hidden here. Truth they never wanted her to know. The files unlocked with a soft beep. The first one was labeled Trial 219. Subject: Valari of the Skyborn. Jace's eyes widened. "They recorded your sentencing," he said. "Play it," Valari whispered. The screen flickered, showing a courtroom of metal and fire. Valari, 15 years younger, stood chained, blindfolded, her wings still whole. But trembling, a Dominion officer read charges in a cold, emotionless tone. Accused of spreading dangerous beliefs, challenging the purity of the Dominion faith, and inspiring rebellion. Then another voice, calmer, hidden behind a mask. "She claims the gods still live in the stars." Gasps echoed in the room. "No one may speak such things," the officer said. "No one may awaken the old fire." Then came the worst part. The screen zoomed in on a Dominion general whispering something to the judge. The audio glitched, but Jace rewired the speaker. Now, the words were clear. Her father led the Skyborn uprising. The general said, "Make her a warning to all who resist." Valari's face turned pale as she heard it. "It was never about what I said," she whispered. "It was about who I was." They had punished her for her blood, not her words. They took her sight, her wings, her voice because her father once stood against them. Jace slammed the table. "This is war crime material," he said. "We can leak this to the net. Expose them." He connected the terminal to a satellite. Relay. A weak signal pulsed into the stars. The footage began uploading to public data boards. "They buried this truth," Jace said. "But now the galaxy will see what they did to you." Valari stood still, her hands shaking. "I thought I was cursed," she said. "But I was only silenced." A new file popped open. An internal Dominion message. Subject, Valari presumed. "Data, case-sealed, memory wiped from archives." Jace read it out loud. "They erased you," he said, "as if you never lived." "Not anymore," Valari replied, lifting her head. "Now they will remember." Suddenly, the terminal alarm blared. The upload was complete. But it also triggered a trace. "Signal locked," the screen warned. "Reinforcements inbound." Jace stood up, grabbing his gear. "We need to move now." But Valari didn't run. She turned back to the screen and pressed her hand against it. "Thank you," she whispered. To the girl she used to be, to the truth she now held. Jace pulled her toward the door. Snow had started falling again, soft and slow. But the danger was rising fast above them in low orbit. Dominion ships received the leak alert. Screens across the galaxy blinked with new footage. A girl punished for a crime she never committed. A people silenced, a truth uncovered, and at the center of it, Valari, the blind skyborn girl who survived. Jace looked at her as they disappeared into the storm. "You just started a fire," he said. "Good," Valari answered, her voice no longer weak. "Let it burn." Morning came slowly through the clouds. For the first time in years, Valari saw the sun rise, not perfectly, not clearly, but enough to make her breath catch in her throat. It was soft, gold and warm, and it touched the frost-covered trees like a gentle hand. She stood at the edge of a quiet hill, her visor flickering but still working. Behind her, the abandoned comms tower faded in the fog. Jace stepped beside her, his arm in a sling, his clothes torn, but his eyes steady. "You leaked the truth," she said softly. He nodded. "It's everywhere now, every free channel, every hidden netboard, people know." "Will they care?" she asked. "They already do," he replied, handing her a data pad. It showed thousands of responses, messages from across the stars, people from other colonies, even Dominion citizens, shocked and outraged. Some offered sanctuary, others offered supplies, but most of all they offered belief. "You were never alone," Jace said. "They just made you think you were." Valari stared at the messages, her lips trembling. A girl from a mining moon had written, "They tried to erase me too, but seeing you gives me courage." Another message read, "We believed the lies, but now we believe you." Jace sat down on a fallen log, exhausted. "We can stay hidden," he said, "or we can answer them." Valari walked toward him, her steps slow but strong. "I want to speak," she said. "Not just for me, but for every voice they broke." He smiled. "Then we'll find a way." Later that day, they reached a neutral zone refugee camp hidden in a deep valley. It was made of tents, half-buried bunkers, and stolen Dominion tech turned into safety walls. Jace waved to a guard, who scanned their faces and let them pass. The camp was quiet at first, suspicious eyes watching from corners. But when Valari stepped into the main square, whispers began. Someone recognized the visor. Others remembered the face from the leaked video. "She's the one," someone said. "She's alive," another whispered. "Skyborn girl. The blind one." Valari stood in the middle, nervous but calm. Jace placed a hand on her shoulder. "Say something," he whispered. She took a breath. Her voice trembled, but it did not break. "My name is Valari," she said, loud enough for all to hear. "I was blinded for speaking the truth, and I was buried so no one could hear me again." The camp fell silent. "I am not a soldier," she continued. "I'm not a leader or a weapon. I am just a girl who survived." She looked around. "Many of you have lost something. Family, freedom, your past. I lost my sight, my wings, and my name. But I have one thing they could never take. She lifted her chin. Hope. The crowd slowly moved closer. A child walked up and touched her hand. Valari bent down, smiling gently. The child whispered, "Are you going to stop them?" Valari's answer was simple. Yes. Jace helped her onto a makeshift platform. Someone handed her a mic connected to an old speaker system. Her voice echoed across the camp. "To those still hiding," she said. "To those still chained, still afraid, look at me. I was left in the dark, forgotten, but I am still here." The camp exploded in quiet applause, some clapping, others just nodding with wet eyes. Jace stood beside her, his heart pounding, not from fear but from something new, pride. Later that night they sat by the fire, watching the stars appear between drifting clouds. Valari leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "I feel like I've lived 2 lives, she said. "You have," Jace replied, "but the second one is just beginning." She turned her face toward him. "Do you think they'll come again?" He didn't lie. "Yes," he said, "the Dominion doesn't forget." "Then let them come," she whispered. "This time I will not hide." Far above, a Dominion ship hovered in silence, its sensors trying to trace her signal. But the galaxy was already moving. Whispers of rebellion spread from moon to moon, not because of weapons, but because one girl who had no voice finally spoke and the galaxy listened. Jace stared at the fire, then at Valari's glowing visor. "You gave them back their light," he said. "No." She smiled. "You gave it to me. I just shared it." And as the first snow of the new season fell across the valley, Valari stood beneath the stars, no longer blind, no longer broken, but burning brighter than ever, a spark that could never be erased again.